done with the fake, delusional, and disingenuous. He stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, Rodney, aka Abuki Cabal. I'm overjoyed to be back with you guys. You know, I've been thinking here and listening to a lot of content here lately, and I can't tell you there are so many guys in this space that I'm in awe of. There's too many for me to name. BGS, Art of Ibmore, Art New Style, Charles Faulkner, Green Gorilla, Dr. Ronald Neal, Dr. Sisilessthan Johnson. You know, did I say Charles Faulkner? I think I did. You know, so many guys. That have made their mark on this space. Obsidian, just doing important work. You know, not just shock jocking, but going out and actually exposing some of the illogical rhetoric that plagues us today. Unfortunately, we live in a society where science is no longer respected. People just go out and just, you know, willy-nilly just make up things, you know. And unfortunately, we see some of the same thought processes in several different dominant groups today. You know, we see it in the LGBT crowd. We see it in the feminist crowd. You know, we see it in the Black feminist crowd. We see it in Black women who don't consider themselves to be feminists, but resist all manner of norms, whether they be gender, societal norms, whatever the case may be. I find that interesting because these people can't answer a question when put to them by people who ask them questions, say in the space or on the street. But if they were in a classroom trying to get that PhD, I guarantee you that they would answer that question appropriately in order to get the grade necessary for them to get the PhD, to hold over your head, to, in their minds, prove you to be inadequate and inconsequential. But today, without further ado, we are going to explore this young lady who I covered once before, who is in Korea. I believe she is a teacher there. She says she loves Korea, but she wants desperately to change Korea into America, it would seem, because of the men in Korea's resistance to Western feminist invasion into their culture and their society. So we're going to take a listen to this young lady and explore some different aspects of her arguments. But clearly you'll see that she is biased due to her upbringing here in the States. When I was in the service and I traveled several different countries in the world, one of the things that I realized is that, and that I tried to express upon some of my white counterparts, was don't bring the United States to this country. Try to respect their culture, experience their culture in a pure fashion, instead of trying to go in and change it to home. If you change it to home, you're not learning anything new. You can't bring anything new home with you in order to make home better. Okay. So let's move on to this young lady's show here, and we will explore her position. Here we go.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol basically ran his whole campaign on misogyny and anti-feminism, and that's how he won. The reason I want to talk about Korea is because it is literally my second home. I spent a lot of time there. I grew up in America, born and raised, but I spent over 2 years of my life in Korea, living there, working there, exploring, and just growing. So Korea still has a very special place in my heart, and I do like to talk about it a lot. It's really sad for me to see Korea backsliding in this regard. America too. I'm not saying it's just Korea. Given that, there are already issues that women have to deal with, like spy cams is all but an epidemic in Korea. Let's be real. It's in bathrooms, it's in hotels. It's hard to feel safe and protected as a woman in Korea. It's so strange to me to see young men hate women so much. So much so that let me know in the comments if this is not just Korea, but I do know in Korea that they have anti-Me Too rallies and
Does that mean that these men hate women? Or is it the premise that Me Too and some of the other recent groups have tried to expose on black men, not black men, sorry, excuse me, on men, period. And that is that, they're roving bands of men out here, just basically their only interest is to make life hard for women and to basically force themselves upon them, keep them from getting jobs, all of that. Or is it that these people are trying to maintain gender-specific roles in society in order to preserve their society? Because, what she's not going to talk about here is that the birth rate in South Korea has plummeted because of some of the effects of women working, some of the feminist pushes for women to work and to be out and in society as if they are men, and not respecting the fact that they have to, bear the burden of birthing children, helping to raise children for the betterment of society and humanity as a whole. If that country's birth rate falls to critical levels and they don't have enough men, and there'll be to some degree enough women, to continue to perpetuate themselves into the future, what are they going to do? They'll die out as a group of people. They'll be totally reliant on the influx of women like herself into that country to try to have children and to continue to create Korean babies, which they will not be, which is what these men are concerned about. Some of the same things that the black community is concerned about, the white community is concerned about, every community is concerned about. But these women, in a selfish way, are only concerned about their personal or group think beliefs about how a woman should progress throughout life. But let's move on.
Feminist movements. There's this one guy who likes to dress up as the Joker and go and interrupt pro-feminism and pro-gender equality rallies and troll them with a megahorn. I cannot make this up. So first I want to rant about feminism in general. I'll put chapters in this video if you want to skip this part and then go towards the end, which is just primarily about what concerns me about Korea specifically in the coming 5 years with their new president. But if you're also a woman or a person who is just an ally, like if you're male and you get that life is pretty unfair for women, then this part may be for you as well. I just wanted to rant and talk about this. Join me in the comments and let's go. So, feminism. One thing that really irks me is every social idea, every political movement, every idea is a spectrum. Like there's, you know, the normals, there's extremes on either end, and it's annoying and unfair. And those extremists tend to sum up the whole idea. Like they get lumped and grouped all together as this radical, extreme, unreasonable movement. So for example, with feminism, yes, you do have the I hate men, women are better and more superior than men type of feminist, but that is not at all what feminism is about. The vast majority of feminists just want equality. They want equal pay. They want to be respected in the workplace. They want to be told that we're not just here to give birth. That's it. Like that's.
See, there it is. We're not just here to give birth, but no one ever said, who ever said that the only thing that a woman was here to do was to give birth to children? No man anywhere has ever said that. Okay. Now, most of the time when men like the company of women, it's because they're well-rounded. It's not because, you know, they're pushing one specific agenda or not. You know, I find it really disturbing that, you know, feminists, you know, pretty feminists, you know, the ones who have pretty currency, you know, they tend to get, I mean, they're all beautied up, they're, you know, the makeup, the hair, the whole 9 yards, but at the same time, they don't want you to acknowledge any of that. And then they tend to say that, you know, I'm beautiful because it makes me feel good. Okay. They don't acknowledge any of the biological programming in humans to be attractive in order to be chosen for procreation. Okay, they want to not acknowledge any of that, and this is one of the main reasons why I feel like if you're going to go to school, and especially if you're going to shoot up the ladder, you know, to you know, advanced degrees, you need to know why things work the way that they work biologically, not based on your feelings. None of that. Because nature doesn't care about your feelings. If you're trying to cross a river and there are crocodiles in there, they don't give a shit how you feel, okay? I'm sorry. I hope that that this is not going to affect my monetization of my channel by, you know, expressing myself in such a way. However, they don't care about what you feel. You're just food, okay? And if you don't fight like a bear to get out of that water and get to the other side, and guess what? Your chances of injecting your beneficial genes into the pool are gone. That's what it comes down to. I mean, you know, feminism has made the comfort that women have been afforded by men and the ease of things have made it to where now these things don't seem important anymore. And women like this young lady here tend to diminish the importance of these things. You know, look at her face. Oh, having children is all we're here for, you know, and they characterize sex as a bad thing. You know, everything is servitude to these these type women, these feminists. Everything is servitude. If it's anything with regard to peaceful coexistence with men, it only can happen if it's servitude. And their way of justifying this is denying the way of things, the natural order of things. And they will fight any battle. They'll fight everything is associated with this feminist movement. If you listen, if you look at it, you'll look at the LGBTQ deal is feminism. Resistance is everything is all feminism. But let's move on.
It's not so much to ask. Like, we can all understand that men and women are biologically, mentally, socially, whatever, different. That does not mean men are better than women, and that does not mean that women are better than men. It means we're different, and it's literally that simple. But people like to have rank. They like to believe that they outrank and they're superior to somebody. So since the dawn of time, that's been men's role. Men have been on this planet and told that they're the breadwinners of the family, they're in charge, they make the decisions because they're stronger. And these days you see more women wanting to work, wanting to provide for ourselves, and wanting equality and protection, and to not.
They want equity, and they want to be stronger. They want to appear to be stronger, But if you actually had to compete against us, you would lose every single time. I don't know what else to say, but let's just move on.
Face harassment and SA everywhere we go. Again, not so much to ask. Unfortunately, for example,
men are harassed also. I'm a nurse, a male nurse. Okay. I can't tell you how many men have to go to work, go inside med rooms that are usually pretty small, and you are surrounded by women. And if you are a nice looking guy, you will be pawed upon. You will be touched. They will make comments about your genitalia and all manner of things. It's a constant almost. Okay. Not only that, you're expected to do their work. They will try to use their attractiveness and all of that to basically, will you do my work? Will you do my dressings for me? Will you, can you help me pass my pills? Can you help me do my orders? Can you help me? It's all constantly, can you help me? So you'll end up, if you're a chivalrous person, you'll end up being the man who leaves late because you're doing your work and their work too. And if you respond by saying, no, they have four nurses here to do 4 nurses' jobs, then they will look at you like the villain, and they will make it their duty to get you fired, to get you away from there because you won't do their bidding. But, people don't they don't care about the plight of men in this new order of things, where men are working around these women. Anytime men and women are working around each other, there's going to be attraction. There's going to be some sort of hooking up, if you will. And when that happens, you have the ones who are not chosen who will basically also start trying to get rid of you. I was at one place where I was working at a hospice where a young lady wanted a man shift who was on night shift. So she cozied up to him. And when he was convinced that he could, basically he was okay, he had her consent in moving forward. I guess he kissed her or something like that. She let it happen a couple of times. And then she said that I think she let some people witness it too. And basically she said that the guy, sexually harassed her. So basically he was going to get fired. So she thought she was going to be able to get his shift. But then when it got into the criminal realm, then they were going to put charges on the guy and arrest the guy. And then she said, no. I made it all up. I just wanted his shift. So what they do, they fired both of them, even though the man didn't do anything wrong. So those are the types of things that you end up dealing with, and if you see enough of this, and you know, all you have to do is just sit back. I mean, I was at the same job, and I had one of my bosses. I told her about some of my experiences, and I told her to just sit back and watch how they treat me, as opposed to how you think they should treat me. And she sat back and she watched. She watched for 2 weeks. Okay, a pay period. And she brought me into the office and apologized to me for all of the stuff that I had to endure. She even watched the cameras and some of the stuff that the women would do, and that I would not reciprocate with. And there's an environment. It's so bad. I wish I could. I wish I had some of the footage just so that I could show it, to show how these women are not at a disadvantage at all. With regard to that. And as far as the gender pay gap and all that, if you're not willing to work, weekends, double shifts, overnight, you're not going to make as much as me. You're not going to make as much as that man who may be a traveling nurse or whatever the case may be. You're not going to make as much. So, excuse me if I'm not going to, be receptive to your cries in the night. You know what I mean? But let's move on.
The overwhelming majority of Muslim people are very peaceful, very kind, very respectful, normal, hardworking people. But because there are extremists on either end, they all get lumped together by those T words. I can't say that on YouTube. And it's not fair. Most Muslim people are very sweet and pleasant and lovely. But because a few of them like to attack people, then it's like, you're gonna attack me because I saw like 2 of you do it. And that's what's happening with feminism. Like, there are the bra burners. Bras are kind of stupid though. Man-hating, women are superior to men types of feminists, but that is not what the whole movement is about, and that's how it all gets lumped together, and it's unfair. And that's where the hatred, I believe, comes from. Or just men being defensive about losing their upper footing in society. Or like Black Lives Matter, for example. Most people who protest for Black Lives Matter, an acknowledged organization, knows that it's just about proving that Black lives matter as well. But then you do have the people saying, oh, you're trying to say that what about white lives, huh? And people like to twist the narrative to fit their argument and give them something to be defensive about, you know what I mean? One of the things that a lot of feminists, or one of the things you see from feminists and people who want gender equality, is dealing with how entitled men feel to women. Like, where does that audacity come from? When you're used to being the one in charge, you're used to being the one who has all the power and all the say and all the dominance, and they have to obey you. Suddenly, when you're seeing that's not as acceptable, and worldwide we are making strides in the right direction, but it's still annoyingly slow. It's like, I imagine when a king is getting old, losing his power, his sons are getting old enough to take over and all that stuff. You kind of lose it because you realize you're losing your power, you're losing your dominance. And maybe that's where it comes from, because I'm so sick of seeing story after story, hearing account after account of women who tell a man no thanks, and they get beat up, harassed, stalked, followed, or shit talked about them because of it. Like, we all, I don't know, you guys know what incels are, right? They're disgusting and vile.
Here we go. Incels. Have you ever met one? Is this just something that you've just been exposed to because you're watching specific content about incels? Because I've never seen an incel. I've never met an incel. I've never met a person who has basically just opted out of society and dealing with females. I haven't done it. Now, okay, I am familiar with SYSBM, but they, there's only so long that if you are a real individual, there's only so long you can do that. You know what I mean? There's only so much of that you can deal with. And I think, most of them are talking about getting women outside the United States, which people like this young lady are going out and basically trying to pollute, the pool. So she doesn't understand it, or she understands it. And what she's doing is trying to damage a person's ability to go out and make choices outside of, the scum that's usually at the top of the pool.
And the fact that they all have this mindset that women belong to them and all women are trash because they don't want them, and it's a lot. It is a lot to download. And when you're online with other like-minded people and it's like a constant feedback loop, you feel more justified in those extreme, frankly, horrible ways of thinking, you know? Like, one of the things that I'm gonna get into a bit later in this video about what Korean men in particular seem to be complaining about is because they feel like the government is giving women too much. They don't like to see them in the workplace, and it's a lot, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Anyway, I've talked about this before, and I just hate how if a woman faces SA, it's YouTube, I gotta abbreviate everything, and then men are like, oh, but why did she dress that way? She should have left the house looking like that if she didn't want this. She was alone, so she should have knew this was coming. This is her fault for not doing this, instead of saying it's his fault for doing it. And again, I'm not saying this is only an issue women deal with. I know men deal with it too. For example, you have a lot of toxic straight men who have this irrational fear of gay men because they're gonna look at me, they're gonna want me.
See? We're just supposed to accept anything, you know. We're not supposed to. Okay, and we could flip that around. You know, they're gonna look at me. They're gonna want me. She just said the same thing about men who are basically gawking at females. You know, if we don't want that, should we not, as straight men, not want that to occur? But here again, you see that feminists try to get you to accept just about anything based on their feelings and their position that everything goes, you know, and you're somehow inadequate if you can't say, well, he's looking at me, but hey, it's all good. You know what I mean? Here I am, you know, in the gym, buck naked, and this guy's looking at my junk and making me feel uncomfortable. Should I not be able to say that? See, this is the same mentality about individuals going into different bathrooms and whatnot, and, you know, and gawking at people because we know that it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Basically, they can say all they want that that is not about sex, but it is. You know, that is definitely about sex, just like the majority of her feelings about, you know, this anti-female deal is mostly about sex, you know, and her ability to be able to deny people sexual admiration due to your physical attributes and whatnot. But that's how we as humans have evolved to basically choose mates. So how you're going to stop that is beyond me.
They're gonna flirt with me and try to touch me. I was like, oh, so you are aware of that concept of unwanted advances. If you're the one that's on the receiving end, but not a woman, it's like, well, why were you wearing that, sir? Why were those skinny jeans so tight? Maybe pull your pants up and cover your butt. Well, you was wearing that muscle shirt, so he was looking at you. Well, you had them big biceps out. That's what you get. It's like they understand that concept then, but when women complain about it on the daily, they're like, it's not all men, not all of us do that. It's like, well, a lot of you do. So there's a lot that women have to deal with, and no matter what women have to deal with,
their assessment is juvenile. And this is a teacher, y'all. This is a teacher. She reminds me of Kay on the Lapeef Let's Talk show. She's a teacher, but how she's a teacher is beyond me, because her ability to be able to have a rational and objective conversation about any topic is almost impossible.
Somehow society tricks women into thinking it's our fault. So now to Korea specifically. I think most people are aware that in South Korea there's mandatory military service. It keeps changing, like it's actually getting shorter and shorter, because back in the day it used to be like 3 years that every man had to do, or like 2.5 years. Now it's what, like 21 to 24 months or something like that, and it might be like 18 soon. It's getting shorter. Anywho, a lot of men in Korea who are upset, young men, and I think that's another reason why when you look at this chart, for example, more younger men feel like women and feminism is stupid and stuff, because they have to go through this military stuff and they feel it's unfair that only they have to do it. Initially, it was more so because, oh, women have like child rearing responsibilities, women have babies, all that stuff, so they can't be bothered with this military service, so we'll have just the men do it. And because there's been a declining birth rate,
See what I mean? Look at that decline in birth rate. So really, women are, by doing these things that feminism, Western feminism has taught them is necessary, is basically detrimental to their society. There's the information. There's the chart. First time in history that this has happened. And the correlation is clear between feminist ideals and this drop in birth rates, because they want to do everything else other than to have children and be in a family structure that is conducive to having children and rearing children and educating children. But these are the stats that they tend to run from. But she has put them in there, but she's going to run from the logic of what this data is saying.
Korea, and in many countries actually, men are getting fed up, like, hey, they're not even having kids anymore, like no one's getting pregnant, so
Okay,
like why?
Hang on, let's look at that again. All right, there's China. The world itself, the birth rates are dropping. And this is has a direct correlation with feminist ideals. In all of these countries, that's what we've exported to these countries, and the birth rates are dropping at a phenomenal rate. But she thinks this is good. This is good for women. It's not good for humanity, but it's good for women. All right. But can y'all really blame women for not wanting to get pregnant these days? And she thinks that's funny. Why? Why would women not want to get pregnant? Why would women not want to be in a stable family structure? See, and she threw this in pretty quickly, but she also made it where she showed the stats and then whizzed by the stats in order to throw in this quick little jab. But let's move on.
Men are getting fed up, like, hey, they're not even having kids anymore, like no one's getting pregnant, so like why can they be exempt from the military service? It's not fair. And let me be clear, now
I already covered this, how being in military service and the requirements, the rigorous requirements, physical requirements of being in the military causes infertility and all kinds of problems physically for women. But she doesn't care about that, because there's always these academics in feminism who always try to push. These are overweight women, the women who are not really that attractive, among other things. And these women are basically pushed out. They push the other women. These young women have to be able to do these things so that it will progress our agenda. And we already know that people like Betty Friedan and, and Gloria Steinem and all them, they said that, hey, we are not above lying in order to push our agenda, for the progression of our agenda. We will lie. We will say whatever we have to do in order for for the position of women to be better, but the position in their minds, But if you go back and you look at in the 70s, a lot of women resisted the feminist movement. But basically what they did was they injected themselves into feminist studies in colleges in order to basically start to teach it. And once you start to teach it, then you control the next generation of women. And then it's continued from the 70s on up to now. And then we have what we have now, which is declining birth rates and women feeling like men are a burden to them instead of trying to live in a symbiotic relationship with men peacefully.
Actually, one of the people that I do think that if men should have to do it, women should have to do it too. But here's my thing. If you can acknowledge unfairness between genders in some cases, why can't you acknowledge them in all cases? I mean, for the most part, the one disadvantage to being a man in Korea is you have to do military service. Like, you have to interrupt your life and your work life, your social life for about 2 years. That's like the one disadvantage to being a man. Why am I moving my neck this much?
There are more disadvantages of being a man. There's death. There is associated with that training. I mean, I've worked with Rock Marines, and let me tell you, it is a harsh. They get physically beaten for little things like their weapon not being cleaned, or like them making a mistake when in formation. I've seen it. I've seen a person get roundhouse kicked for not doing something minor on board a ship, during an operation that I was involved with in Korea. So, she doesn't know anything about any of that, and the harsh conditions that they have to live in. And not to mention, if you're not in the military, you're still having to provide. You're still having to go out and put yourself on the line. And look at the death rates of those men. Those men are dying earlier than most women because of the harshness of their lifestyles and the stress endured by trying to provide for their wives and their families.
I'll say that women should serve in the military as well when women get more equality, when women can stop losing these battles for equality. When we stop seeing anti-Me Too movements in Korea, that's when women should be allowed to serve or forced to serve in the military as well. And here's my thing. I've talked with a lot of Korean guys who has done their military service, and it's hell. That's a whole nother video. Like, the pay is ridiculous. You don't really get to eat good food. You're isolated. There's bullying. That's a whole lot. That's another video. But it seems like there's this concept of, if I didn't have to suffer, then so do you. Like, before, it used to be your duty and your... why did I just do Attack on Titan? I literally just did this. Okay. It was seen more as like your duty and your honor to protect your country. And honestly, I don't see it as very necessary. I'm not Korean, but here's my take anyway. South Korea has a lot of political, military, social allies, like a lot more so than they did when North and South Korea first split and went to war.
Here we go with the dumbness. Then we have a lot of allies, so therefore they should do nothing to protect their own country, I guess. I guess that's what she's saying. That's why a lot of us feel like you shouldn't even be in the room. You shouldn't be in the war council if you can't see the big picture. And clearly we have an educated individual who cannot see the big picture. And again, who are you to say how Koreans conduct themselves in their country?
So if anything were to pop off with North Korea, I really don't see that being an issue. I feel like these days it's more so like, oh, I had to suffer the military service, so you should do it too. Whenever people are talking about making it not necessary anymore, a lot of men are like, hey, I did it, you should have to do it too. But my thing is, again, if you're gonna have women do this, then it needs to be, things just need to be more equal in general, because SA does not stop in the military. And can you imagine how bad it would be for women in the military in Korea? There already are like women who do choose to volunteer and serve. It's a small number, but they still do. Last year, I do remember reading headlines about women who ended things because they were being harassed in the military and no one was listening to them. So yeah, that's one of the complaints that men have in South Korea. Another one that they have is they feel like under President Moon's leadership for the past 5 years, women have been given too much. Women are given protections and family services, and that's one of the things President-elect Yoon said he's gonna get rid of. Is it Yoon? Said he's gonna get rid of, and that's one of the things.
And they elected him. So obviously there's some sort of problem there because they elected him. If I'm not mistaken, in a landslide. That's why she's so upset that they're going backwards. But if you don't like it, you can come home and you can be as feminist as you want to. You can run around and be outside of relationships, and you can spout off all of this stuff. And it amazes me how young women, you're 20 something years old and you talk about all of these negative experiences that our women have to deal with, but you've never seen any, you've never experienced any. But there's a tagline that you jump on and you just go out here and you just continue, and that's the bad part about this pushing of feminist ideals by young folks who have never experienced anything. You have been indoctrinated into a system. You have been assimilated into a system of oppression that you have never experienced in your lifetime.
That helped him win. Yeah, young men are sick of seeing women being police officers saying they're not qualified to protect you, and seeing them in the office, in the workplace, saying that they were just given those jobs because they're women.
Oh, somebody! Oh, he needs some milk.
What? My opinion is that a lot of South Koreans only know the extreme feminists who hate men and think that women are better than men. And
because those are the ones who are on the street. Those are the ones who are out actively trying to change things. The good women are not out on the street, because the women who don't agree with these people are not on the street. So in this case, you have the loudest person, the loudest, most negative, most active are the ones who are out there on the top claiming that all of this stuff needs to change. You know, they don't really necessarily care about the women who are okay with it. They actually look at them like they're pick-me's, and they're just women who are too afraid to try to make change, you know?
they ignore the everyday issues that women complain about, you know what I mean? You know, they do complain about not being able to find a girlfriend because they say, oh, I'm not tall enough, so no girl wants me. I don't make enough money, so no girl wants me. I'm not handsome. I don't look like BTS, so no girl wants me.
I hate how guys act like girls are the only shallow ones. Like they don't go for girls because they're pretty or have big boobs or butt. Okay. No one ever said that. We like what we like. You guys are the ones who try to shame us into liking other things, you know, Oompa Loompas and whatnot, and, you know, Alice the Goons and all of that. You guys try to convince us that all women should be considered in the dating pool, but there's a reason for that, you know, that men don't do that. Hell, they've taken pictures of different types, body types of women and attractiveness to ugly. And they took them to a tribe down in, I want to say it was South America. And they asked them, which woman is the best, is the woman that you would choose as a mate? And they picked pretty much the same as what we would pick in society today. And when they asked them why they wouldn't, it's because they said these women have more problems during childbirth or don't survive childbirth. That's the only reason for it. So we've been programmed by nature. Our biology makes us look for certain attributes in women in order for us to perpetuate the species.
And that leaves them to like leap toward and like lean toward the anti-feminist side. They're like, yeah, they do suck, man. Women suck. They don't give me the time of day. How dare they? The audacity. I'm a man. They should pay me attention and entertain me and love me back. Again, I know that gender issues is a worldwide tragedy, but I never heard of anti-Me Too movements or anti-feminist movements until Korea. And that was really devastating to hear and to see that this is how people feel, young men in particular, because as you get older, men in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s think that women are equal to men and want to support that. But
show me your data. You know, I don't believe anything that you say. Show me your data. You know, and this is the anti-Me Too movements are all around in the world because women are taking advantage of these things. Look, Amber Heard took advantage of the Me Too movement and with great success until she was actually put under the microscope and people saw what her personality was and how vicious of a liar she was. But, you know, they don't want to talk about those type of people.
The young men who were the swing vote in their 20s to giving President-elect Yoon, I didn't want to say his name, giving President-elect Yoon
She doesn't even want to say the man's name. She don't want to give him the respect due to his position because she doesn't agree with his position on trying to do what his electorate wants him to do, which is to control this anti-male movement that is Me Too and Time's Up and all of that type of crap that's being pushed by Western media.
Win. Women, just please be careful. Like, you do got to be careful about spy cams. Men who just don't accept no for an answer. They see you dressed a certain way and feel entitled to you and your body, and it's so irritating.
No, men are going to shoot their shot. If you're out there and you're in a mini skirt, you look good. That's the cost of looking good. You're not just looking good for yourself. Whoever told you that, they're full of shit. If you look good, you're going to get talked to. You're going to get attention. Okay? I just looked at another stream the other day where this young lady was on there talking about all the attention that she used to get and how it basically made her feel a certain way, that she almost felt entitled. That it was just so easy for her to go out and go get these types of things, this attention in these areas. And then when it stopped, she was almost suicidal, But if you're an average individual, or if you're in that phase that you are a pretty girl, and then later on you see that all of that, isn't, is basically time sensitive. It's not forever. Then maybe, just maybe, you might start trying to use your time wisely.
They see you as nothing more of a trophy and someone to bring their children into the world. And it's really, really frustrating that it's 2022 and so many people still have this mindset. That's just my little rant. There's a lot to say, and I don't want this video to be forever. So we'll do it again. Let's do it again.
Yeah. That was a heap of garbage. But it was very entertaining. Thanks a lot. I will be looking at more of you because you're silly. I don't understand this movement of these young women who are going out trying to push, they leave America to go to these other countries to make these other countries American, and no, I hope these countries do everything in their power to make sure that you don't get your way. I'm totally glad about what these countries are doing. You guys tell me, in the comments what you think about it, and check out her content. There's loads more there. She loves Korean men and whatnot, so she's getting a favorable outcome over there, because there's everybody knows that some of these guys, they tend to have these androgynous looking men in those countries. You look at, she's an anime consumer, fan. I watch quite a bit of it myself, but those men are androgynous. You can't tell the women from the men in some of them, other than by their actions and what they do inside of the storyline. So she may want that softer, man. But on the flip side of that, when they get pissed off, it's a whole nother ball of wax. You are to comply, or they will advance the aggression accordingly. So, like I said, you guys let me know what you think. I'm going to shut down. Looks like I need to do a little PC maintenance here. But it's been fun. If I missed anybody in my accolades for the greats in this space, please forgive me. But there's so many who have so much to offer in this space, and it is a very important space. I am thankful for it. And I encourage all the men here to continue to educate themselves, look beyond the surface level, dig deeper, read these bills associated with the governmental process, read a lot of this, the sociology, the psychology, the medicine associated with some of these narratives that these people are trying to push. I encourage you guys to go out and look at Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? Very entertaining, and it'll show a level of ignorance and that is legendary. And again, I dare say that all of this can be attributed to feminism and feminism's takeover of the momentum of the civil rights era. Civil rights are no longer being talked about. It's only, your right to basically force your sexuality on everybody else. And for essentially the perpetuation of female agendas and, gay and trans agendas. That's the only thing that's important today. Other than, guns also. But I digress. You guys let me know what you think. It's been fun. And I will submit this for your review. You guys have a great day, and on to the next one.
I feel like a